My exam, should you ever do anything that equates to this? And here's what students do. They'll go, Slicer is, how old is Slicer? 17. Slicer is 17. What impact does that have on his case? And you'll go, Slicer is a minor, so you would have to use the minor's flow chart.
Yeah, you said this.
Okay, so this is what I equate that to. You're asked a question of what happens when you go 6 plus 7, and your answer is, you would have to add, Murray. How many marks do you think I'm going to give you for that? You would have to add. Are you right that you would have to add? Yeah. Don't answer questions like that anywhere. Show your knowledge. So, let's show our knowledge. What's the first question we have to add since Slicer's?
Is it a necessity?
No. The first question is what? 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 First question is what? The first question is either side drunk, insane, or a minor? Because you could have minor. Didn't I get you to do that for homework for today?
Yeah.
Anyways, you need to know what you're dealing with. So, is Slicer drunk?
No.
Is Slicer insane?
No.
Is Slicer a minor?
Yes.
Okay? Is the golf course drunk?
No.
No, golf courses can't be drunk. Is the golf course insane? No, golf courses can't be insane. Is the golf course a minor? No, they can't be a minor. If you look at the attendant, which I generally will let you do because I haven't taught you enough about agency to understand it, the attendant isn't drunk, the attendant isn't insane, the attendant is a minor. But if you understand agency, it's actually a contract with the golf course. So, since Slicer is a minor, you, not me, would have to use the,
Flow chart.
and therefore, we will ask the question now,
Is the contract for necessities?
is the contract for necessities? What's the answer?
No.
That would be a bad answer. Let's try a better one.
The test to that is.
Ah, yes, the test.
Is it food, shelter, clothing, or something you need for work or money?
Is it?
It's none of those things.
Why?
It's leisure.
It's golfing. Golfing is not food. Golfing is not clothing. You don't wear it, right? It's not something he needs for work. It's not money.
Leisure, therefore it's not work.
It's nothing, right? Are we done?
No.
Now what?
Question 2 is you asked if the contract is complete.
Is the contract completed?
At this point, obligations have not been fulfilled. So no.
Why not?
Well, it has been, there's a promise.
That's a bad answer. We're not asking if the contract is there. We're asking if what?
All obligations have been fulfilled.
Have they?
I don't believe so.
Why not?
The promises have been made, so yes.
Promises, that's not what this is. This is, folks, when we're asking if the contract's complete, we're basically dealing with this. Have both sides performed their obligations under the contract? That's the question.
Slicer has not paid $7.
Didn't he?
He hasn't paid yet. He promised to. He didn't pay yet, though.
I don't know. When's he paid?
He pays with his credit card after all those clauses are read. He pays with his credit card and moves on. So it's way after the written contract that he actually pays.
But before the ending of the facts. Did he pay?
Yeah.
It's disclosing the facts he's paid. Is that what he has to do?
At this point in our narrative,
Which,
no.
where are we?
Well,
Where are we in
so
time,
he
folks?
paid $7 fee with his credit card and hopped in his card.
Okay? So, there's a tiny issue here. Where are we in time?
Everything has already happened.
Both
You're
contracts.
basically... If you have a question on the exam about where we are in time, that can be a very important, valid question if you ever get confused, okay? So if you run into this, you have a problem. But most of the time when we're dealing with these fact situations, I'm saying if these facts are proved, what will the outcome be if people get sued? Right? Or, even if we're dealing with this, what are we dealing with right now? What area?
Thing with the flaw of capacity.
The flaw of capacity. What does the flaw of capacity give him the right to do? Yeah. So he has a right to repudiate if the flaw is there. Does he?
He does not repudiate.
Then we still have to deal with could he, because you want to show your knowledge about this. So at no point does he use this flaw, and at no point, and certainly not before he pays, right? So he's paid for it without using the flaw. Has he performed his obligation?
Yes.
Have they performed?
Yes.
What did they give?
They provided the card and the right to vote.
But what about the rain? Doesn't it rain?
The rain is at the
I can
end.
golf while it's raining.
It's almost at the end of the year turning.
Does that affect their obligations at all? Did they give them? So have both sides completed their obligations? What's the answer?
Yes.
He's given the money, they give him the right, no repudiation, no canceling. So, now where we are.
The contract complete, so is the contract fair?
Is it fair?
Yes.
Was he ripped off because he was a kid?
No, because he admitted that the rates that he saw on the signs were comparable or the same as other places.
There are no facts to suggest that he was ripped off because he was a kid. A prudent adult would appear to pay the same amount. And, yeah, and it's the same as other places. That's good. Okay? So what's that mean? What's the end point?
Is it for the order of goods and services delivered?
Do we do that? I don't have the flow chart in front of me, folks.
Yes, is what happened when it delivered?
Do we have to deal with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it? Wait a minute, let's go through. Contract for necessities. What's the answer?
No.
No. Contract complete?
Yes.
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 Contract fair,
Contract fair? Yes.
Yes.
so is what was delivered?
Is the next one order goods delivered?
Yes.
Really? Okay, order good. Really?
Yes.
Did you give us contract fair? Yeah.
Huh. I trust you.
I
It seems strange though.
That's what we have.
I have, our goods returned if applicable. Is that not part of the necessity test?
Yeah, I have that
I
as
have that
question
under
3.
no phrase. If the contract's complete, then you.
If you all have it, you're probably right. So the question is, were the order goods delivered? Were they?
Yes.
What were the ordered goods?
Use of the cart and the right to vote.
Were they delivered?
Yes.
Okay. So you all have that, right? That's the next question? Okay, it's probably right. And then
Goes down to the contract.
he's down to the contract. Good. Can he use the flaw?
No.
Because that's what that flow chart takes you to. Sometimes kids can, sometimes they can't. We got to the point where it says he can't. Go ahead.
Could you just clarify the necessity test? Because I have, for the questions, is the contract complete, are goods returned if applicable, and is the contract for necessities? Is that the 3 that we need, or is there that one?
You have them written as a flow chart?
Well, I have them in a flow chart here, but I also have the test first and then the flow chart.
Okay, well, they have to go certain spots. So are you asking me what the test is for necessities?
Yes.
Food, shelter, clothing,
Uh-huh.
something they need for work, or money.
Okay.
All right? So, we have a contract. There are no flaws that could be used, right? And how does it end?
Both sides perform.
They both perform. Well, that was easy.
We're still talking about the verbal contract.
Here we are. Yeah, we are.
There's a written contract that happens after that.
Well, there's a written agreement.
There's a written agreement. So it's not 2 separate contracts here.
It's 2 separate agreements.
Two separate agreements.
We don't know if the second one's a contract yet. Do we? We're just dealing with this. That's acceptance. We back up. Have we touched the written document yet? And again, this written document's a really good example because of what we're trying to do and how it works. Is there any dispute about this agreement? Is there any fight? What's the fight about? What would the fight be about?
The fight would be about the hole in one.
That is one fight. What's the other fight?
Fight would be about-
The bird clause,
Yeah,
right? And the bird clause is contained completely in the
written agreement.
written agreement. So, if we know what the fight's about, this goes back to this gentleman's question here. When you know what the fight's about, it helps you to make sure that you address the issues that relate to that. And there could be more than one. So what we're really looking for is, if the golf course sued for the bird clause, just the bird at this point in time, because we're not dealing with that other one yet, would they win? And the answer is going to be no. I'll just tell you that right now. Okay, they would. But what we're looking for is all of the reasons. What are all of the arguments? We're not looking for an answer. We're looking for all of the ways to get to that answer, which requires you to know your stuff. So, is there a second acceptance?
Yes.
Is there? Where is it? Where's the acceptance?
Signing the waiver.
Is signing an agreement acceptance?
Yes.
Yes.
Would you agree that's a clear indication of yes when you sign it?
Yes.
All right. So now we're going to back up. We're going to go, what was the offer? The offer is going to be in the... It's going to be in the written agreement, right? What does the offer say?
In the document that Fletcher signed were terms that indicated that you could golf on the course and rent a golf cart for the entire day for the sum of $7, and that the golf course would not be liable for injuries for use of the cart. It also contained the following clause.
The bird clause.
Yes.
We're just going to call it the bird clause. Okay, I don't want to write the whole thing out. So, when he signs it, this is the offer that's being made. Golfing the whole day of the cart, not liable, and there's a bird clause, right? You with me on this so far? Now we have to analyze it. So we start again. Yeah.
In the contract, there were also clauses in the front or back that Fletcher did not read. How do we deal with that? Because
Yep.
we don't know the whole offer.
You don't. You don't. You deal with the facts that you have. So the facts that you have are, there's $7 in a cart, not liable, the bird clause. Because it's enough for you to do the assessment that you need to do. The additional clauses may be there, but you're going to see they can't possibly be relevant, and nor do you need them in order to show your knowledge of the areas. Okay? So I can understand that as well, that, you know, how do you assess this? But we're really trying to determine the dispute, which is going to be about what? The bird clause, right? So we're looking for reasons based on these facts as to where that's going to go and why. So here's the first question. Is there intention to create legal relationship? Now we're not dealing with that. We're dealing with this. The signed document. Are they still at arm's length?
Yes.
Is it still commercial?
Yes.
Second, consensus. Where's the offer?
Written document?
It's in the written document. So what's the question? What's the test? Thank you. Is what was offered the same as what was accepted? And this is the point in which I would probably deal with that. What is the actual offer? You might be able to also deal with it over here when you're trying to assess performance, but I would probably put it here. Deal with the offer. And remember what the exam is going to say? It's going to say something like this. Is there consensus? Why or why not? Identify the offer that resulted in the binding contract, who made that offer, and all of the terms in that offer. So, if you're just dealing with consensus, you might not deal with what the actual offer is or these issues until the end. But when I tell you, you got to tell me what's in that offer that disclosed by the facts, and how would the court deal with the obligations. That's the time to deal with them. So I would expect you to deal with these things first. So what is stated? Those things, right? Is there any issues that are going to be dealt with by what is obviously meant?
Yes.
What?
Taking proper care.
Are they fighting about that? Possibly, Josh? You could see that?
Well, it's ambiguous.
Don't do that then. That doesn't go here. If it's ambiguous, it can't be obviously meant. Ambiguous statements cannot be obvious. That if they were obvious, then they couldn't be ambiguous.
I misunderstood how you asked that.
I'm dealing with this. Are there any issues that we're going to be using what you learned about obviously as part of the contract for this? And I don't see any. Okay? And the fact that I don't see any doesn't mean that you won't. Okay? But I don't. Okay? So, do we deal with the third part, which is the rules for written contracts? Which one?
Unfair surprise.
What's the test?
Is it something that
Harsh, excessive. Do you notice I'm doing this without any notes at all? That's what happens when you teach this 200 times. Harsh, excessive, unusual. Is there a clause in this contract that you would say was harsh, excessive, or unusual? What is it?
Yes.
It's that bird clause, right?
Yes.
So, what's the rule say?
Must be pointed
Must
out.
be pointed out.
Specifically pointed out, or it gets removed.
So, was it?
Yes, the guy.
No. No, folks. No.
But the guy told him to check the important clause.
That is not specifically pointing out that clause. Telling him that there's important clauses. Okay, let's show you this. Okay, I'm going to do this visually because I like to show this. Okay, let's just imagine that I'm going to mark on your thing here too. That this clause in red, that I've put the boundary around, folks, and I'm just putting it around this. It doesn't matter. I'm making this up. Let's say this is a contract, and this clause in red is a harsh, excessive, unusual clause. What do I have to do to specifically point that clause out? Is this enough? There are important clauses in this document.
No, you have to make it my.
No, I don't have to do that. I don't have to. That is a way to do it.
Yeah, common industry practice.
It is, but it doesn't have to be that. What I have to do is, what does specifically point out mean? Tell you that there's some clauses in there somewhere?
actually show you where it is.
Yeah. There is a clause in here that says you will pay $1,000 for the bird thing. It's right there. That is what you need to do when you have a harsh, excessive, or unusual clause. So now, when we apply that fact, you see that? It's not enough to tell people to read the document or that there are important clauses in it. What you need to do to get around this, it's kind of the antidote, is you must specifically point out that clause. And if you see that, right? Did he do that? Or was that done?
No.
No, there's no way it was that clause was pointed out. So, What does that mean?
It gets removed.
So is it part of the contract?
No.
Can it be breached?
No.
It gets removed. So what's the first reason that we've come to as to why he doesn't have to pay that?
It's excessive, unfair.
The principle of unfair surprise would remove that clause because it's a harsh, excessive, unusual clause that wasn't specifically pointed out. But we don't stop because we're going to do this whole thing. Is there any ambiguity in it?
Yes.
You could argue that. So you're saying take care, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. What does it really mean? I can see that argument.
Proper care to avoid interference, but if you don't know where the nests of the birds are, like if there's no signs, how do I, you're golfing.
What does proper care mean? Could mean several things to different people. I would accept that argument. I wouldn't have seen it. I wouldn't have made it. But I would accept it.
Well, even pro golfers have a bad day, so.
Okay? If you see ambiguity there and you apply the test in a way that I can understand, I'm okay with it. I wouldn't myself going through it. It's not the answer I would probably come up with. But it depends on how you see it. And this is why there aren't right answers. Oh, what's the last one? The parole evidence rule. What's the test?
Is there something that you have to speak to the judge about because it was agreed to outside of the contract?
That isn't the test, but you're on the right track. Did someone try to verbally alter the written contract? In other words, are they going to argue that we said something here that is changing the deal? That's really what the test is. Did they try to verbally alter? Did they? No. Did anybody try to, after the written contract was signed, put words into it?
No.
No. So the parole evidence rule would not apply, and therefore you don't have to worry about the exceptions, which is nice. All right, so we're here. Consideration. What's the test?
Both sides.
What?
Both sides of the viewpoint.
That.
They did not already have or have the right to.
Yeah.
So is there consideration in this case?
No.
Why not? Isn't he giving $7 and they're giving him the cart?
They already have right to that.
So. Oh, yeah. So let's draw this out, folks, because this is where you have to understand where everything's going and where everything's been to assess this. So I'm going to put this here. Can I erase my bridge?
Yeah.
I hate erasing my bridge. I'm going to erase underneath it. I'm going to have my initials. So we have an agreement that we have agreed as a contract that has created obligations that was verbal, didn't we?
Yeah.
And what under agreement number 1 did Slicer give?
Some promise to pay.
The promise to pay $7. What did the golf course give?
Policies, the card and golf.
Here's the trick question. Who doesn't give new consideration? Slicer or the golf course?
Isn't the answer both?
That you could. That would be wrong, but you could. You could answer that. Which one?
When you're saying consideration, you're talking everything that's in the new.
Yeah, we're looking at, this is again the same issue. We're over here now. We're analyzing this. We're looking for consideration in this, in the written document that was signed.
So the new consideration would be from the golf course.
What are they giving? Are they giving something new?
Not that they're giving.
Yeah, they're adding clauses.
Yeah, that's true. They are adding clauses. Okay, let's do it, folks. What is the golf course giving under this written agreement?
Right to the golf on the golf course and
Are they giving anything else?
No.
What is Slicer giving?
$7.
On the written agreement, is he giving anything else?
Yeah, he's given a promise to pay $2,000 if it's a nest.
And he's also giving a waiver. A waiver is you're giving up your rights. I can't sue. I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give you and give up my rights to sue. So now we're going to ask the question, given that this is a contract, because it is, because we've already done this, right? Is Slicer giving something in the second agreement, the written one, that the course does not already have or have the right to?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Is the course giving something that Slicer does not already have or have the right to?
No.
So,
And therefore,
consideration is not present.
and therefore,
It's not a legal contract.
what's the second reason he doesn't have to pay?
There's no legally binding contract.
There's not a contract here. But we're going to continue on. We're going to deal with legalities. Anyone have to break the law?
No.
No, you don't have to break the law. Does it limit a person's ability to earn a living?
What about that clause about injury? No. Yeah, all right.
The waiver, giving up the right to sue, is what part of what Slicer's giving in this second agreement. He is giving something. But the question is, are both sides giving something? The answer is no. And therefore, we get that. We have no contract. Ms. Rapp, does this second agreement change anything about false impressions?
No.
So just be careful before you answer those things, because sometimes you have to really think. Don't shoot from the hip. Oh, it's nothing else. It's the same thing as before. But I don't think, does it change anything for Mr. Duress? Was anybody forced into the second contract?
No.
Does it change anything with respect to undue influence? It's based on relationship. Has the relationship changed at all? Are they in the 5 relationships? Non est factum. Now you have to be a little bit more careful. Because the question is, did they sign something, think it was something else? Your answer for the first one was,
No.
because,
They didn't sign anything.
but the second one they did, right? But did they sign something thinking it was something else? Completely different?
No.
No, right? We're not going to get there. So he knew what the document was when he signed it. He might not have known all the terms, but he knew basically what it was. All right? Capacity. Do we have to do this again?
Yeah.
We already did it before. Don't let me push you around. This is not the same agreement. You cannot simply apply your answers, and you're going to see that when you go through it. Because the first question is what?
The rider side is drunk.
Good. You see, I was tricking you. I was waiting for you to go, is there? No. The first question is either side drunk, insane, or a minor? See, some of you learn quickly. You don't say, is there? I was hoping someone would say that. And say, is there necessity? That would not be the first question. Are they drunk, insane, or minor? What's the answer? No side is drunk. No side is insane. The golf course is not a minor, but Slicer is. Therefore, we would have to use the minor's flow chart. Yeah. Next. You know what I think I'm going to do? If anybody does that, if that's on the test and anyone does it, I'm going to stop marking your test at that point. I'll just add up what you got before. No, I won't do that. I was just kidding. That was a joke. Funny. All right. So, what's the first question on the minor's flow chart? Is the contract for necessities? Is Slicer getting food, shelter, clothing, something he needs for work, or? No, not necessity. What's the second question? So here, you got to go back and actually stick this clause back in, because we're trying to determine if it's back in, does he have to pay it? Right? To assess whether this would make a difference on this clause, it makes no sense if the clause has already been removed by our other process, even though it would have been, right? We're looking for all of the reasons why he wouldn't have to pay. So if it was still back in, if those ones failed, and we're dealing with capacity, the question is the contract completed? Why not?
said for the whole day, and there was a rainstorm.
Did they give him the whole day?
No.
Sure they did. Just choose not to use it.
Yeah, they chose not to use it. They didn't even stop for the storm. They just stopped to try to cash in on the money.
So we're back to, if that clause is in, is the contract completed?
Yeah.
Has he paid them?
Mm-hmm.
The $2,000?
Your debt please, God.
I thought we got rid of that though, because it was an unfair credit.
Right, we did. But again, I want you to address the mentality that you need to here. We are looking for all the reasons why he doesn't have to pay that clause. All of them, right? So you can't say that once we've taken it out, no other reason matters. We have to actually put it back in and look at that written document with it back in and say, I'll show you this a different way. If you're wrong about unfair surprise, and you're not, and if you're wrong about consideration, and you're not, do you have anything else? So we have to go back to, let's go back to the original document and say, if that doesn't work and that doesn't work, will this work? In other words, what are all the arguments you can put before the judge? Do you want to give the judge the one argument that you think is going to work when you have 4? You want to give them all. But it doesn't make any sense to be arguing about capacity, removing the clause, or making it invalid, or giving him the flaw if it's already been removed. We don't need it anymore, right? So just go back and deal with it. That document with capacity back in. So, is the contract for necessities? Is the contract completed?
Yes.
Did he pay the $2,000?
No.
Well,
Not
we
yet.
gave them their credit card.
He
They
said
were
they're gonna
charging
take
his
money the
credit
next
card.
day.
So we are before the next day.
Yes.
This is where we are. Where are we in time here? Right? Have they taken the money out
Not yet.
at this point in time that you're looking at? So therefore, it hasn't been paid, which means it's not completed, right? And what's the next question? No, we don't go there.
Goods returned is applicable.
So is this applicable? Did he return the goods?
They
Yes.
can't, so we treat it as if it was returned, right?
Correct.
Why can't he? Your answer's right. I just need you to know, I don't think necessarily everyone's following the bouncing ball. Why can't he?
Because it's like a service, like you can't.
Yeah, it's not the cart being returned. He didn't buy the cart. What he bought was,
The right.
The right.
can you return that?
No.
No, you can't return a right to golf. Therefore, it's treated as if it is returned, which means he can. So if you're wrong about that, and you're wrong about that, he's still got that. Do you see this? And this also raises a problem about how do you end when you've got these clauses? Well, was it performed? Well, it doesn't have to be performed because it's not a contract. And the clauses that were left in it were